Your brain is lying to you right now. Not about something small. About the one thing you think you understand better than anything else, your own mind. See, most people think they have one mind. One voice in their head making decisions. That's the lie. You actually have three. And right now, one of them is running your entire life, while the other two just sit there, fully loaded, completely unused. Find that switch, and you can never go back to blaming bad luck again. It's sitting inside a book almost nobody reads anymore, written by a woman named Florence Scovel Shinn, and quietly pushed aside by the institutions of her time, because if what she was teaching was true, nobody would need them anymore. She called it The Game of Life. And it's not a self-help book. It's an instruction manual for a machine nobody taught you how to operate. There's a version of you reading this right now. Checking facts, looking at your bank account and thinking empty. Looking at the diagnosis and thinking sick. That's one mind. But underneath it, there's a second one running the whole time. Shinn calls it a faithful servant, but a terrible master. It doesn't judge orders, just executes them. Say, I always miss the bus. And it will quietly sabotage your whole morning to make that true. Every single time. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. For most of you watching this, the servant has become the master. Your fears from 10 years ago. Your dad's voice in your head. That one rejection you never got over. They're the ones giving the orders. And your subconscious, obedient as always, is out there manufacturing a life you never actually chose. And then there's a third one almost nobody ever meets. Shinn describes it as a realm where a perfect version of your life already exists. The debt already paid. The relationship already healed. Not someday. Right now, on a different frequency, it's already done. So why can't you reach it? Because of what Shinn calls the great error of the intellect. Your logical mind thinks the way to fix a problem is to fight it, to grip the wheel tighter, to analyze it from every angle. But here's the trap. The subconscious doesn't hear, I'm working on my finances. It hears poverty. It doesn't hear, I'm managing my health. It hears sick. You're pressing the gas pedal with one foot and standing on the brake with the other. You cannot think your way out of a problem using the same mind that's terrified of it. So if thinking harder doesn't work, what does? This is where Shinn says something that sounds almost insane. And it's the exact thing that changes everything. Newton's third law. For every action, an equal and opposite reaction. Push on a wall, the wall pushes back. Shinn says your mind works exactly the same way. The second you say, I hate this debt, you're pushing, and the debt pushes back. The second you say, I can't stand this loneliness, you're pushing, and the loneliness pushes back harder. She calls it a rule with zero exceptions. What you resist persists. But she goes one step further, and this is the part that stings. What you fear, you invite. Think of your attention like a spotlight. Wherever it points, that's what gets fed. So if you're lying awake replaying the argument, reliving the rejection, rehearsing the worst-case scenario, you're not protecting yourself. You're building a monument to the exact thing you don't want. Picture yourself checking your phone for the 5th time in an hour, waiting for a reply that isn't coming. That's not caution. That's a spotlight aimed straight at your own fear. So what's the alternative? Shinn tells the story of a woman. Deadline closing in, creditors calling, completely out of options. She goes to Shinn in a full panic and asks, how do I manifest the money? Shinn's answer stops her cold. Act like it's already handled. Not hopeful. Not desperate. Already done. The woman is furious. My life is falling apart and you want me to be casual? But Shinn explains. Her fear wasn't a reaction to the situation. Her fear was the wall. Every time she checked the bank account, every time she spiraled at 2 a.m., she was signaling lack to the one department of her mind that takes orders literally. The actual moment, she let it go. Really let it go, not performed it. The phone rang. The money came from somewhere she never expected. This isn't magical thinking. This is Shinn describing fear and faith as the exact same energy. just pointed in opposite directions. Fear is faith aimed at the thing going wrong. Faith is that same energy aimed at the thing going right. You already have the power. You've just been aiming it at your nightmares. But here's the warning nobody gives you when you finally stop fighting. You create a vacuum. And nature does not like an empty space. If you clear out the fear and don't put anything in its place, the old patterns don't just wander back in. They come back with double the force. So how do you actually fill that space? Shinn has one specific technique for this. And it's the strongest idea in the entire book. Shinn calls it casting the burden. Here's the logic. Your conscious mind was never built to carry the full weight of your life. It's not designed for it. Trying to solve a massive, tangled problem with pure logic is like trying to lift a car with a bicycle. The frame just wasn't made for that kind of load. So instead of carrying it, you transfer it. Not to a person. Not to luck. You hand it to the one department of your mind that specializes in solutions your logical brain can't see yet. The superconscious. Here's how you actually do it. First, you admit the intellect has failed, not as weakness, as strategy. You stop pretending you have it figured out. Then comes the transfer. You say the words and you mean them. I am handing this over. It is no longer mine to carry. But here's the part that separates the people this works for from the people it doesn't. You have to feel the weight actually leave. If you say the words but you're still bracing for impact, you haven't cast the burden. You've just described it out loud. And then comes the hardest part of the entire process. The time lag. In this fourth dimension Shinn talks about, the problem is already solved. But we live somewhere slower, heavier, three-dimensional. There's always a gap between letting go and seeing the results show up. And most people fail right here. They cast the burden at 9 a.m. and by lunchtime they've quietly picked it back up. They check the bank account. They check their phone. Nothing's changed yet, so they panic and grab the wheel again. That's the exact moment you tell the universe, actually, I don't trust you, I'll handle it myself. And the weight comes back, heavier than before. Here's how she describes what you're supposed to do instead. If you order a steak at a restaurant, you don't sit there panicking that the waiter's going to bring you a shoe. You pick up your fork. You get ready to eat. Worrying about the order isn't caution. It's an insult to the chef. You're supposed to act with that same absurd confidence. Not fake it. Prepare for it. Shinn tells the story of a woman who asked for a house she didn't have yet. So she went out and bought blankets for it. Not because she was pretending. Because she expected it to arrive. That's the difference between hope and faith. Hope waits to see if the order comes. Faith already has the fork in its hand. There's one more command in this book. And it's the one that undoes almost everything we're taught about success. Stand still and see the salvation. Not physical stillness. Mental stillness. It means quieting the part of you that's still screaming about the problem, because you cannot hear the solution while you're mid-argument with your own fear. And when you finally go quiet, really quiet, something shows up that isn't a thought and isn't logic. Shinn calls it the hunch. The direct, cool, sudden knowing that doesn't explain itself. Doesn't argue. Just says go left or make the call or not today. Here's how you tell it apart from your own anxiety pretending to be intuition. Fear is frantic. Fear nags. Fear says, I need this right now or everything falls apart. A hunch is calm. It doesn't beg. It states. The people who win the game Shinn describes aren't the ones who fight the hardest. They're the ones who finally stopped. That's the entire mechanism. 3 minds, 1 law, 1 technique to move the weight where it belongs. If there's one sentence from this video you remember tomorrow, let it be this. What you resist persists, what you release arrives. 1 problem, 1 book, 1 idea that quietly changes how you see your life. That's what this channel is. If that line is still sitting with you, subscribe because the next one might be the idea that actually moves you.